UFC 323 goes down Saturday, December 6th at the T-Mobile Arena. And it's the last pay-per-view event of the year, maybe forever, right? As the UFC gets ready to move to Paramount Plus, where pay-per-view will be a thing of the past. Now it features Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan in the rematch for the bantamweight title. If Merab wins this fight, he's easily, has no competition for fighter of the year. So we got to discuss that. Also, maybe the bigger fight, flyweight division title on the line, as you got the dominant champ Alexandre Pantoja taking on the up-and-comer. This guy is flying through the division in Joshua Van. But could he really challenge Pantoja? We got to talk about that as well. We're going to get into these fights and several more, provide you with the full card preview and the main card predictions. Next.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA Podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege.
All right. Welcome to the TCMMA Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cross, and we'll be with you throughout the evening discussing the full card preview and predictions for UFC 323, and it's a banger. I mean, you got the main card is ridiculous. It's a great way to go out ending the year 2025. Not the last card of the year, but the last pay-per-view event of the year, and as we said in the intro, maybe forever. Now, throughout the show, feel free to call in live to the show. This is something new that we're doing. We're going to test it out tonight. So, hey, if it doesn't work out, at least it'll be amusing as we try to get this conversation started with you all. So feel free, click the link in the chat. It's pinned at the top. That'll take you right to the show. Leave your name and town if you wish to talk on this podcast. So UFC 323 is legit. Of course, we got the two title fights at the top. And before we get into the main card, let's just preview some of these other fights, down in the early prelims. We got all these predictions done this week, so we're almost 2 weeks ahead of schedule here. No fights this week, so it gives us time to get ahead a little bit after about 10 or 11 straight weeks of fighting. We finally got an off week. And, first of all, before we go forward, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. If you're catching this show early, of course, this show will be watched even more as we get closer to the event. That's usually how it works. So we're doing this one early. But it kicks off in the featherweight division with Muhammad Naimov and Myron Santos. Tajikistan versus Brazil. I mean, this is a high-level fight. Santos is the favorite. Now, as you get into the middleweight division, you got Mansur Abdul Malik, 8-0, taking on another Brazilian, and Antonio Tricoli, 12-5. That's why we always say, don't invite Brazil to the party. I mean, they're guaranteed to win one of those fights, if not both. Then in the light heavyweight division, you got Iwo versus Ebo. You heard that right. Iwo Baranuski making the UFC debut at 6-0. I think he got the win at the Contender Series, if I'm not mistaken. He's from Poland, Polish Power, back with another guy, big KO at the Contender Series, taking on Ebo Aslan, 14-3. From Turkey, lightweight division, Edson Barboza, Jalen Turner. I like both these guys. That's just going to be a special fight. Barboza and Turner, I love them both. The tarantula in Turner is ridiculous. It's Brazil versus America in that one. Then in the middleweight division, Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. Excuse me, another Brazilian. That fight's even. We had a tough time with that pick. And the lightweight division, Nazim Sadikov versus Faris Siem. Azerbaijan versus France. And you can get all these predictions on our YouTube channel at TCMMA Podcast. Then in the prelims, that's only the early prelims. I mean, it's going to be crazy. Macy Barber versus Karine Silva, USA versus Brazil. Then you got lightweight division. This is going to be a banger. Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Oh my goodness. T-Rex. Love it. Then another lightweight banger. Lightweight division is always tough. One of the best divisions in the UFC. Hardest to predict. Throw the odds out. You got Grant Dawson, 23-2. Are you hearing that right? Doesn't seem like it. 23-2 versus Manuel Torres from Mexico, USA versus Mexico. Torres 16-3. So those are your 9 prelim fights. We'll see if the UFC adds another one. Very possible, but they're loaded early. You only got 4 hours there, so not likely. But this card is for sure to shift and change as we get closer and closer to the event. It often happens, right? You have fights listed, and then fight week someone can't make it, or they got travel visa issues, or whatever, and the cards start to get shifted around. And then sometimes certain fights, get a lot more views and promotion and things like that than others, and those fights get shifted to the top. So the main card isn't always a given, but that's what we really want to dig into tonight, is jump right into the main card and get to some predictions. Now, as the show continues, as we get to these predictions, feel free to call in the show, click the link in the chat, and we'll see if we can't figure it out and get you on here, talk to you for a minute. And, listen, you can break down our predictions. You can add some insight. You can talk about whatever you want. That's the whole point. And we'll go from there. So we're in no rush tonight. But first, let's get right to the first fight of the night. And that's Yan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Grad, a light heavyweight division. This is going to be a banger. Check it out. In the light heavyweight division, at UFC 323, you got Yan Blachowicz, who we haven't seen in a while, taking on up-and-comer Bogdan Guskov. So highly intriguing fight here. That's why it's fight 3 now. Blachowicz, former champ, 29-11 from Poland. Guskov, 18-3 from Uzbekistan. So you already know about those fighters. Usually good. Guskov, 1 inch taller, is 6'3". He's 33. Yan, 42. Wow. He's getting up there. Jan's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Guskov is more active on the feet, 4.2 significant strikes per minute to 3.4 for Yan. But Yan lands like 1 takedown every 3 rounds. Now, remember, these averages are throughout his career, not when he's 42 years old. So that will be the interesting part that we'll be watching. Yan has dropped 2 of the last 3 fights. He had a draw against Ankalaev, who ended up winning the belt later. Had a chance to win the belt there, couldn't get the job done. Then he lost to Alex Pereira by split decision, which is crazy, right? He had 3 takedowns on Alex Pereira. Pereira led 70-52 in significant strikes, so it's not like Yan is done. But then he fought Carlos Ulberg, who beat him 75-59 in significant strikes. So therefore, Jan's he's 0-2-1 in the last 3. His last win was in 2022, over 3 years ago, against Alexander Rakic. And that was at a time when Rakic was, better than he is now, to say the least. So Bogdan Guskov, got to take a hard look at this guy. Beat Nikita Krylov by first-round KO. Subbed Billy Elikana in the second round by guillotine. Beat Ryan Spann by second-round KO, and Zach Palga first-round KO. So, I'm a little bit stuck on this fight because I know Guskov is on the rise, but I don't see the fights that you need to see to make an accurate prediction. But he is beating his opponents, right? He's only had 6 rounds in the last 4 fights, and all of them, all 4 finishes. He last lost to Volkan Oezdemir by first-round submission back in 2023. It's going to be a tough fight for him, right? He's pretty active on the feet, but it's not like a big difference. Yan has the ability to land takedowns. I'm just going to bank on the fact that Yan is not done quite yet. He's getting up there, but he's still very competitive, very good. He's going for his third to get the win, so I got to ride with him in this one. I just think Yan Blachowicz is still good enough to beat Bogdan Guskov. Guskov will be around a few years. Of course, after this fight, will be better as time goes on. I mean, he might beat his peak now, though, which gives him a chance. But Jan's going to be too good in this one. He'll win and move to 30-11, likely on the takedown game. It'll be close in a stand-up, but the takedown game is the deciding factor in favor of Yan, and I think it plays out that way. He wins 2 rounds to 1, in my opinion. Light heavyweight division, UFC 323. Yeah, and we said Bogdan grab because he just fought, so obviously it's Bogdan Guskov. No disrespect, but that's because we're going with Yan anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I get nervous with these 40-something-year-olds. I mean, when you hear the word 40, it's like, man, you're still fighting? But this is Jan Blachowicz, right? I mean, this guy's for real. He's not done yet. Is he winning a UFC title again? No. But he's definitely a gatekeeper. This is a fight that he's got to win. And if he wins, or if he loses, really, he can still keep fighting if he wants to. But at some point in time, you're going to see this guy for the last time. At some point in time, he's going to leave the gloves in the octagon, if you know what I mean. So watch him while you can. So that's the way we see that fight going. Now, again, if you're watching live, click the link in the chat. It's pinned at the top. Call in the show. Let us know what you think. Any topics are available, right? We're talking UFC 323, but we're going to get to the final 4 picks regardless. We can take this fight or this convo any way you want. You want to talk about Islam? You want to talk about Hamza? Call in the show. And if you don't know who Hamza is, don't call in the show, because Hamza Chimaev is still the best in the world, in my opinion. So in fight 4, you got a big one as well, right? I mean, there's just no question about it. Henry Cejudo, what's this guy up to? He's come back after a 3-year layoff and has not looked good. But he's fighting some really good fighters. Now he gets Peyton Talbot, an up-and-comer. So I guess Cejudo's a gatekeeper, right? Still 16-5, former flyweight, bantamweight champ. But Talbot's on the rise, 10-1. He's actually favored in this fight. So Cejudo's getting no respect. I mean, he's getting 0 respect coming into this fight. So let's get into this prediction right now. In the bantamweight division at UFC 323, you got Henry Cejudo taking on Peyton Talbot. And this should be an interesting matchup in the main card. Cejudo, as you know, former flyweight and bantamweight champ. He left for a few years, came back. He's 16-5 right now. Talbot, 10-1. Both guys from America. Now Talbot's considerably taller, 6 inches to be exact. He's 5'10" compared to the 5'4" Cejudo. Talbot just 27, Cejudo 38. Big age difference. One guy well past the prime, one guy just entering the prime as we speak. Talbot, 7-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter, always an advantage. Cejudo fights right-handed. Talbot, 6 significant strikes per minute to 3.8 for Cejudo, but you know what that means. Cejudo's got the edge in the takedown game, where he lands like 2 takedowns every 3 rounds, but is he slowing down? That's going to be the question. Big question. Rightful question coming into this fight. Now, Cejudo, 76% takedown defense. That shouldn't matter. He's lost all 3 fights since the return, taking on Aljamain Sterling for the title, which he lost by only split decision. Right? Very close fight, but then he lost to Merab. Decision. Song Yadong. Decision. So this is a rough comeback for the former champ, and it just shows. I mean, he literally missed just 3 days shy of 3 years, and the octagon rust is real, but he's still fighting well. It's just you got all these young guys, right? It makes it very tough. Talbot, 76% takedown defense. He'll need every bit of that in this one, right? I mean, so Cejudo's had 4 takedowns in the last 3 fights since his return. But we've seen him put out more than that throughout his career. Talbot beat Felipe Lima by decision. Raoni Barcelos beat him by decision. 8 takedowns to 1. Not good. Also, Giannis Gamori, he beat by KO. Cameron Simon by KO. Nick Aguirre, submission. So the guy's been on a tremendous roll since entering the UFC. Won at the Contender Series. He's now 4-1, only losing to Raoni, a guy that's 21-5 and is a bad dude. So big test here for Talbot. I have a bad feeling for Cejudo. It's like, is he really slowing down that much? He's lost to 3 good fighters. and now he gets another fight down. He's a major underdog. And he's not going to be able to match the quickness of Talbot, but can he land takedowns? I'm not so sure, man. I'd like to see Henry Cejudo win one of these fights, but I just don't see it here. I think Peyton Talbot's going to be too much, too quick. He's young. Cejudo's got the experience, but he needs a takedown game. He's not going to be able to keep up with him in a stand-up, and I don't think he's going to be quick enough to land takedowns. So I got no choice but to go with Peyton Talbot here to get the win pretty easily. Even if it does go to a decision, he's going to piece up Cejudo and defend takedowns to move to 11-1. In my opinion, bantamweight division, UFC 323. Yeah, it's tough, with Cejudo because the guy's come back, fought 3 good fighters. So let's give him that. But he lost all 3. And looked good at times, but not like the old Cejudo. The old Cejudo would have mopped the floor with Peyton Talbot. But this isn't the old Cejudo. This is like later 30s Cejudo. You take 3 years off, and the octagon rust is real. Make no mistake about it. The octagon rust is real. So those are your first 2 fights in the main card, and it's interesting, right? Because you start off the main card, the pay-per-view portion, with light heavyweight division. So you got some big guys, right? You got some, big guys coming to the octagon. Then all of a sudden, the rest of the card is just these small dudes, right? Like 135 pounds and less over the remaining 4 fights. I just find that highly, highly interesting. Now in fight 3, you got another big one. I mean, because we haven't seen Brandon Moreno in a while. This is going to be a flyweight division fight with Brandon Moreno taking on a ridiculous fighter in Tatsuro Taira. And, this guy seems unstoppable right now. Brandon Moreno, we haven't seen him in a little while. He needs a win here. I mean, it's not like he's losing a bunch of fights or anything, but is in title contention that this is, if you want to remain there and not become a gatekeeper like a Jan Blachowicz and some others, you got to win this fight. But, Taira's ridiculous, man. This is another tough prediction. Let's jump into it right now. In the flyweight division at UFC 323, you got a big one here in terms of the future when you got Brandon Moreno taking on Tatsuro Taira. Moreno, former champ, 23-8 from Mexico. Taira on the rise from Japan, 17-1. And this is basically an even fight, although they got Taira as a slight favorite. Both guys 5'7". Moreno right in the prime at 31. Taira 25. Both guys 70-inch reach. Both guys stand right-handed. Moreno's got an advantage on the feet. Nearly 4 significant strikes per minute, 2.9 for Taira. But Taira lands 1 takedown per round compared to 1 every other round for Moreno. So you got to believe Taira's got the advantage in the takedown game. Moreno 64% takedown defense. He beat Steve Erceg and Amir Albazi in his last 2 fights. Doesn't seem like it, but he's been, he's gone 10 rounds in those 2 fights. And against Erceg, he got outstruck and still won the fight, 116-89. That's crazy. Against Albazi, he dominated 132-63. Before that, he lost a split decision to Brandon Royval, got outstruck in that one, and lost to Alexander Pantoja, the current champ, but that was by split decision. So he actually outstruck him 147-129. And you might say it's been the toughest competition that Pantoja's had, at least so far. So he's not done yet. Taira 45% takedown defense. That evens it up a little bit to me. Now he beat Hyung Sung Park by neck crank submission in the second round, lost to Brandon Royval by split decision. So both of these guys have lost to Brandon Royval by split decision. That's why it's pretty much even. He beat Alex Perez by KO, second round. Also against Carlos Hernandez, second round KO. And this is a highly interesting fight. It's going to come down to the takedown game. I mean, they both can land takedowns. And when you look at the weak takedown defense for Taira, it kind of evens it up. But not really sure how that's going to play out because Taira's going to be more aggressive with the takedowns, but Moreno's got a little bit better takedown defense. And the only reason it's down to 64%, not 70 or 75, is some of those tough fights like against Pantoja where he got taken down roughly 6 times. So the takedown game is going to be interesting. The longer it stays standing, if it does at all, Moreno has a big edge over Tyra there. It's just going to be an interesting fight to see how it plays out. But I'm going to lean, and I understand why the odds are so close, but I'm going to lean with Moreno to get the win here because I believe the striking will take over in round 3. I think these guys will split the first 2. Moreno takes over in round 3 to win by decision, but they got to come out quick because it's only 3 rounds here in the flyweight division at UFC 323. Yeah, so regardless of the odds, to me, that's a toss-up fight. I mean, you can't go wrong either way. Moreno is a guy that's very good, former champ, lost the belt to Pantoja, probably Pantoja's toughest competition. And Tyra at 17-1 is just nasty. I mean, he's just beaten everyone in his way. So it makes it very difficult to make a pick there, but that's the way we're going to go. So we're steadily cruising into the championship fights. It's not too late to call into the show live. Let's talk. Click the link in the chat. We'll pick up your call and we'll take the conversation wherever you want to go. The only rule for us is that we got to get back to these 2 title fights at some point in time. But why waste any time? We'll wait on you to call in the show. Plenty of time to still do so. Now in the co-main event, this is a flyweight title fight. And already, you know, my channel trends like the UFC, obviously not on the same level, but the UFC is looking at this fight and saying this might be the best fight on the card. I mean, not might, it most definitely, at least probably is. I mean, with Alexander Pantoja, the current champ, 30-5, he looks unstoppable from Brazil, right? We got what, 2 or 3 Brazilian champions right now, taking on the up-and-comer from Myanmar. You know him, Joshua Van. He's just run through the division to get all the way to the number 1 contender spot. He's 15-2. But is it too early for Joshua Van? That's my only question going into this huge pick. Is it too early for Joshua Van? Is he too young, or can he shock the world? Because to me, it would be a surprise. No question about it. That doesn't mean I'm not picking him. But I think a lot of people will be surprised if he can pull it out. So let's jump into this pick right now. In the flyweight division, for the flyweight division title and your co-main event at UFC 323, you got Alexander Pantoja, your current champion, taking on up-and-comer top contender Joshua Van. And people are highly excited about this fight, to say the least, because what can Joshua Van do, right? We know Pantoja is dominant. Can Van come in here and pull off the upset? Pantoja, 30-5 Brazilian. Van, 15-2 from Myanmar. Both guys stand 5'5". Big age difference. Pantoja, 35. So the question is he slowing down yet? Not quite. Van really young at 24. Pantoja, 3-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Now Van is much more active on the feet, at least against other competition, right? 8.9 significant strikes per minute, 4.4 for Pantoja, which is about the UFC average. But Pantoja lands like 1 takedown per round. And that could be a problem for Van, despite the 81% takedown defense, which is really good. Now, Pantoja has been on a tremendous win streak, hasn't lost since he lost to Askar Askarov back in 2020. Since then, he's run off about 8 wins. Most recently against Kai Kara France by submission due to rear. Beat Kaya Sakura the same way, right? Round 3 and then round 2 before that. Beat Steve Erceg by decision. Brandon Royval decision. And he's doing it with takedowns. In the last 4 fights, he's had 23 takedowns to 1. And when you got a takedown game like that, it's hard for anyone to beat you. Now, who is Van faced, right? He's beat Brandon Royval by decision. So they both got decision wins over Royval. Royval outstruck Pantoja. And he outstruck Van. But he got the loss. It's 215 to 204. So very exciting fight. Van beat Bruno Silva, tough competitor, by third round KO, led by nearly 50 significant strikes, 125 to 76. So those are the last two fights. He's on the rise, and he's the top contender in the division. But is he on the level of Pantoja? Not quite. I'm not ready to pass up on Pantoja yet, although I'm very intrigued by this fight because it's going to answer a lot of questions in terms of Joshua Van. But when Brandon Royval is outstriking you and you land no takedowns, you still get the win. I mean, it's a close fight, right? You're going round by round. Both guys are landing nearly 70 significant strikes per round. So Van's landing, but he's taken too. Against Pantoja, that's not going to work because Pantoja is going to go in and try to land takedowns. Now, Ray Soraya landed 4 takedowns against Joshua Van, but the activity for Joshua Van got him the win. It won't get him the win here because Pantoja will dominate the ground game. That's a story of the fight to me. And Pantoja will keep the belt. Don't know if it'll be by decision or submission. That part will be interesting. We're going to find out a lot about Joshua Van in this fight, but he's not winning this one in my opinion. Pantoja wins, retains the belt to be the 31-5 flyweight division for the title at UFC 323. Yeah, you know, they say timing is everything. Timing is everything, and I don't think this is the right time for Joshua Van. I do think he will be a champ, though. The guy is young. But Pantoja, who's just left the prime window of age, what is he, 35, 34, something like that? He's still fighting at a prime level. Like he's in the prime. He's not slowing down yet. He's got another 2 years before that starts to happen. I just don't think this is the right time for Joshua Van. That's why it's a tough fight because sometimes the guys get up there, they don't win the title, then they got to fight a 4 or 5 contender, then they get beat, and now you're in muddy waters. Now you got to win 2 to get back. So, you know, hopefully it doesn't happen to Joshua Van. We'll see. You know, and then in this next fight is crucial too with Merab. If he wins, will he ever move up? I don't know. But right now is not the time for Joshua Van, in my opinion. And now, we've been wrong before. Could be wrong again. We'll see. Speaking of being wrong, the main event is next. And man, let me just break this down for you. It has been a rough year in the main event for us. We've been doing this for years and years and years. We've never had a losing season in the main event. It got rough at certain times. We're down 4 or 5 under 500, like 14-18, 4-9. I mean, it's just crazy. In other years, we had years where we jumped out to like 16-2. So now we've battled back to 19-20. We got 2 main events left on the season, on the year, and we got to win them both. And we've won 2 or 3 in a row to put ourselves in this position. Next week's is going to be really tough, and I'm hoping that it comes down to next week because I got to really look at that prediction between Royval and Manel Kape. Any insight you can give me in the chat room, please do so, because that's going to be a tough prediction and it may very well come down to that fight. Now, as we move into the actual main event, you got Merab Dvalishvili, the current bantamweight champ, much like Pantoja, seems unstoppable. He takes on Petr Yan for the second time. Petr Yan's 19-5, right? Very capable of winning this fight. He's nearly a 4-1 underdog. But, you know, don't give a guy another opportunity. That's all I got to say. Merab's fighting to be the fighter of the year. I mean, what's this, his 4th or 5th fight, all title fights in 2025? I mean, this guy is on a tear. You know, and it's like who in the division is going to challenge him at this point? This is why he's fighting Yan. And he knows if he wins this fight, he's fighter of the year. How much you care about that or not, I don't know. But when your career is said and done, you're not going to be fighter of the year, you know, for 3 years. You might get it once or twice. So if you're going to get it, go for it. And that's what Merab is doing. So let's jump into this bantamweight title banger. Right now. In the bantamweight division for the bantamweight division title at UFC 323. You got Merab Dvalishvili coming in at 21-4. He's the champ from Georgia, taking on the Russian Petr Yan, who comes in at 19-5. This is the rematch, but the stakes are much higher than the first fight. Now Yan's 1 inch taller. He's 32. Merab's 34. Merab 1-inch reach advantage. He stands right-handed. Yan is a switch stance fighter. Yan actually has the advantage on the feet, 5.1 significant strikes per minute to 4.3. But the takedown game is where it's at. We saw Merab in his last fight land 20 takedowns against Corey Sandhagen. On average, he lands 2 per round. Of course, that's inflated due to the last fight, but he's well over 1 per round. Yan gets 1 every other round, but Merab 82% takedown defense, Yan 85. So 2 guys that defend takedowns really well. Now, Merab is on a 14-fight win streak, if I'm counting correctly. Since Yan, the last time he's won 5 straight, beat Henry Cejudo, then won the belt against O'Malley, later would defend it against O'Malley. That led to his submission, beat Umar and Corey Sandhagen along the way. Now, in the last fight with Petr Yan, he landed 11 takedowns compared to 1 and doubled up nearly in significant strikes, 147 to 75. So since that last fight, Yan has won 3 in a row. That's why we're here. Beat Song Yadong, Figueiredo, Marcus McGee, all by decision. And, he's had 4 takedowns during that time, giving up 3. I'm not saying Yan can't win, but I think Merab's run out of opponents. It's time for him to move up divisions, or he can just continue dominating at this level. But we don't see many people like Khabib anymore that are comfortable with just dominating and keeping the title in that division. A lot of guys want to move up. So we'll see what Merab wants to do in the post-fight, but going into this thing, it's just they run out of opponents. He gets to face Yan again. Yan deserves a title fight because he's won 3 in a row, so he's back in the mix. And we'll see what happens, but I think Merab's too strong. 11 takedowns in the first fight, 20 in his last fight. That's going to be the angle here. Merab wins on takedowns in control time and significant strikes pretty much everywhere to move to 22-4. Bantamweight division for the title at UFC 323. Yeah, of all of the tough time we've had this year and all the picks we've missed, we're 19 and 20, right? This is one we're going to get. I mean, if Merab doesn't win this fight, then this year is just meant to be terrible. But I expect Merab to win. I expect to be 20 and 20, and then we got Royval and Manel Kape next week, and that's a toss-up fight to me. So we're going to have to really, really break that fight down. And not a lot of times I look over the fight too much before I do the prediction. I do it on the fly. I got to have that feeling. And we go over the fights like you just saw and all that, all the fights that they fought, the resume, things like that. But I'm going to look at that one a little bit. And it'll probably mess me up, honestly. But I'm going to look at it and really break it down, especially if we're 20 and 20. Well, the thing is we're probably going to do that pick before UFC 323 happens anyway, so we won't really know. But I'm assuming that Merab wins this fight, and it all comes down to the final week of the season. So that's where we stand. And we should have had Tom Aspinall beat Cyril Gane to at least make it a 50-50 year, where we're 21 and 21 at worst. But no, Tom Aspinall had to pull out of that one. Unfortunately, it never happened. And guess what? He might have lost that fight. It didn't look good at that time. So that's where we stand ahead of UFC 323. A lot on the line for us and for our reputation, right? You can't have a losing season. Now, we're still plus 125 roughly in overall picks. So our overall predictions are right on par with what we've done every year. We're always like plus, 100 to 150. So we're right in that range, but the main events have been tough. You got V Dents weighing in saying Ibo Aslan is going to win. Yeah, I mean, his opponent, Iwo, man, that guy looked crazy good. I believe he got a 20-second KO. 20-second KO at the Contender Series. He's undefeated. He's coming in with a lot of hype. That's why I took Iwo to beat Ibo. I like that, Iwo versus Ibo. But that's going to be an interesting fight. Ibo Aslan is no slouch. I mean, let's not get it twisted, right? I mean, Ibo is no slouch. So you got a bunch of good fights coming, a bunch of good fights that are set at UFC 323. We went through all the we previewed the prelims, fight by fight predictions for the main card, and it's going to be exciting. It's been a good year for us in terms of views and things like that and growing the channel. You know, it stinks that 2025 is coming to an end, but I'm super excited about 2026, the move to Paramount Plus. I'm a little nervous about it because since we've been doing predictions, you know, over 5 or 6 years now, the UFC has been with ESPN, so we're in a rhythm and a routine, and now all of a sudden we're going to flip to Paramount Plus. There's a lot of questions I have. We won't know to the very first fight. How is the pay-per-view situation going to work where it's no longer pay-per-view? Are they going to start watering down, you know, the pay-per-view fights because it's not pay-per-view? So there's a lot of questions there. I'm very excited. You know, they could also beef up the fight nights. You could now take 2 fights from the pay-per-view and sprinkle them into the fight nights and beef those up in the top 4 or 5 fights. So it's going to be a little different. I think this is why we haven't seen next year's cards released just yet. The UFC is also trying to position itself for UFC White House. That's going to be on the back of their mind the entire year. If there's fights you already know you want to set up, you almost can't have those fighters fight until then. That's not till late June. So, you know, say you want Islam versus Topuria at UFC White House. I mean, if both those guys fight, what's the chances that one of them might lose before that? If you want John Jones versus Tom Aspinall or John Jones versus Alex Pereira, does Pereira fight before that and take a chance he loses? So it's going to be an interesting year, especially early in 2026, to see how all this is set up, who's fighting who. Then the rumors will start to get stronger for UFC White Houses, which is, again, as we said in the previous show, it's going to be one of the biggest cards in modern UFC history. And I say modern, I mean like the last 10 years. You know, and every year gets better, so it might be the best card in UFC history because they got to make it really good. That means you're going to have some weaker pay-per-views before and a couple weaker ones after. Someone's going to get called upon, like Alex Pereira did when he fought at 300, 303, and 306. You know, because UFC Hunt 300 was so huge that now you don't have a lot of big fights after. So all of a sudden they had to call on Pereira to fight in 3 main events in about 7 cards, right? So he fought in 3 main events over a 7-month period. So you're going to see something like that transpire before and after UFC White House. But again, I'm looking forward to 2026, man. I can't wait. I cannot wait. But first, we got to get 2025 done and over with. But guess what? That'll do it for today's show. We appreciate y'all watching. It's been a good one. We're about 10 days early on this one, but we had to get to it because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I'm going to be eating and chilling. So until next time, I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving as well. This is your boy Chris Cross. Have a great day and God bless. As always, peace.